This is a 2024 Honda Prologue, Honda's very first battery electric vehicle SUV. This is also the first production Honda that is the result of the technical partnership between General Motors and Honda.
No, it's not.
And that is John Perley Huffman, and he has something to say. What is first, John?
The first one is that remember Saturn sold Views powered by Honda power plants.
True, but that was not a whole vehicle. That was just powertrain.
But it was a GM collaboration with Honda, wasn't it?
Okay, so this is the first full vehicle GM collaboration with Honda, and it is using the Ultium setup, which is the Ultium battery pack and the Ultium platform, which this Honda rides on. However, Honda has been very adamant to say that this is very distinctly Honda, and to be fair to Honda, there are plenty of things that distinguish this one from the Blazer.
The Chevy Blazer.
The Chevrolet Blazer. Thank you, John.
Yeah,
and
here to help.
Because this is Honda's very first SUV EV in the United States, very curious to see how it feels. Let's find out. I review all kinds of cars, and I have fun every time. Please subscribe and join me. Battery electric vehicles still aren't cheap, and this Honda Prologue is no different. Among the three trims offered, EX, Touring, and Elite, the base EX trim is still close to $50,000. The Touring goes up a few grand from there, and the top level Elite is getting pretty close to 60 grand. Now, for the EX and the Touring models, you choose between front-wheel drive and dual motor all-wheel drive power, and there is a $3,000 additional cost to go all-wheel drive. With that, now is a good time for me to pull over and show you around and inside this car in a bit more detail. Hopefully I won't get rained on too much. Looking at the front of the car, you can see that for an SUV, this thing is pretty darn low to the ground. It's also pretty darn wide. And because it's an electric vehicle, you can see that there's basically no grille. You have some small openings down here with these nice horizontal slots built in, but generally this is all flat and blanked out and gives it a very clean design. I also like how long and expansive the windshield is, and it goes pretty darn low. So front end visibility is quite good. While the hood itself has some nice scalloped into the center of it and looks cool, I'm quite curious to see myself and to show you what's underneath. It's kind of a big reveal. Whoa! First of all, I love that the first thing you see is not some big black plastic shroud, but actual metal casings and electronics and wiring harnesses and gadgets. But also, look how tucked far back all this stuff is. You can see that even in this relatively small space, you still have tons of room here. You do still have a 12-volt battery, but it is tucked back fairly close to the firewall. And finally, windshield washer fluid is easy to find right here up front, easy to get at. Looking at the car in profile, this is a good time to mention that you can tell the car's pretty wet, but it's actually pretty much a minor miracle that we're not getting rained on right now. It's been raining relentlessly the entire time I've been here, so the fact that we're actually getting a little sun is kind of amazing. Also, this is a nice light blue grayish color paint. I think it looks good. I'll go ahead and put the official name of the color up on the screen for you to check out. And this is a good time to let you know that this is roughly the same size as a Honda Passport. It's actually a little bit longer and a little bit lower. I will go ahead and put the dimensions up on the screen now for you to check out and let you know that I have a lot more information in the description. This right here up in the driver's side front quarter panel, this is your charge port right here, and you can see you have the option for the fast charging right there. Standard wheels on a Honda Prologue EX are 19-inch wheels, but this Honda Elite trim comes standard with 21-inch 6-spoke wheels, and they are very big. And I will tell you that I do have experience to let you know that these tires do a good job to keep you on the road even in heavy rain. And yes, this is a square setup. The wheels in back are the same size as the wheels in front. Looking at the car in back, more of the same design language comes through for sure. You might have noticed this very clean looking Honda lettering right here. This is new. This is the US debut of this new Honda logo look right here for EV vehicles. That combines with this E right here with a colon just above the all-wheel drive nomenclature right there. This new badging right here, as I understand it, we'll see on more Honda EVs coming in the future, and potentially, eventually, on every Honda. It's a power liftgate, and that exposes 25 cubic feet of storage behind the second row, and a little bit of extra storage underneath the floor. And you can see here, got a shallow compartment right there, but then a pretty darn deep one right here. This goes a solid 12 inches, I would say. My arm goes to my elbow going in this deep storage. It's narrow, but it's deep. And yes, if you need more storage and only need to carry one passenger, that is super easy to do. Pull a couple levers and you get 58 cubic feet of storage and room for you and a passenger. Because we have a nice long wheelbase and because it's only a 2-row SUV, legroom looks ample in the second row. I am 5 feet 11 inches or 181 centimeters tall, and as you can see, I have several inches of knee room right here, and I have the front seat set up to be comfortable for me. We also have this nice panoramic moonroof right here, and you can see the privacy panel is open. With that, I have enough headroom, but only just. It's barely enough. But I do also have 2 USB ports down here and an AC plug right there as well, plus a little storage right here. So as I open the front door, it's going to start beeping at us right away, and that's because the car has actually been running the entire time. You can see the ready signal right there. I'll go ahead and turn it off. Push button start is right here. We do have the usual controls on the door right here, as well as 2-position seat memory right there. The seats themselves are comfortable and have decent support. They're not the most supportive seats you'll see. You do have plenty of controls right here, including lumbar adjustment over here. As you can see, we currently have 60% charge and 166 miles of range. That all seems reasonable, but I'm going to turn the car back on now because I want to show you these screens. And there is your fully digital 11-inch instrument cluster right there. And as you can see, we have plenty of controls on the steering wheel to make adjustments, including this one right here. And you can see that you have all kinds of different configurations to look at. Because we have an Elite trim, we do have a heated steering wheel and a head-up display. Also, this is a departure for Honda. The shifter is no longer a push-button thing on the center console. It is now on the steering column, and it's a little quirky. You have to get used to it. So park is this push button right here, but if you want to get into reverse, you have to first push it forward, then up. That's reverse. Neutral, you just click it forward, and then drive, you click it forward and push it down. Push button again for park. Next to your digital instrument cluster is your 11.3-inch center console touchscreen. This is standard on all Prologues, as is the dual climate control below it, as is the heated seats that you see right there. This 11.3-inch screen also comes standard with Google built in, and that includes Google Assistant, Google Play, and Google Maps. You also get wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. And before we get away from the center console, I should show you a couple things. You do have adjustable one-pedal driving. It is done with this button right here. That turns on one-pedal driving, and then you can set the different levels. So you can have it off, normal, or high. Because this is an Elite trim, we not only get heated seats, we get ventilated seats as well. But back to standard features, we get 2 more USB Type-C ports right here, and an old cigarette lighter style 12-volt charge port right there. This is also standard equipment. This is a wireless smartphone charger, and it is what Honda calls pocket style. There you go. Looking up here are your controls for the panoramic moonroof, which of course has an electric privacy panel. Lovely. Again, because we're an Elite trim, we also have a Bose premium sound system. As I mentioned before, we do also have a sport drive mode right here. So if you turn on the sport drive mode, this little track configuration shows up right there. And it does change some aspects to the way this car responds to the accelerator. But the biggest single difference I felt was actually the noise you hear. Honda does incorporate active sound into the Prologue, and in sport mode, it makes a more pronounced noise when you're heavy on the accelerator. So yeah, this is a really interesting car, and there's a lot to like about it, but the thing I'm most interested to learn about is how it drives, so let's get back to the drive. All right, let's dig into the powertrain. Where does Honda get its power? Well, as I said, you choose between front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive. The front-wheel drive or base setup for the EX and Touring models is a 212 horsepower, 236 pound-feet of torque electric motor. This standard and only powertrain for this elite trim, the top trim, is the dual motor setup, and that gets you two motors providing a total of 288 horsepower and 333 pound-feet of torque. And because this is a big, heavy electric SUV, those are good numbers, but it's not overwhelming numbers. John, you drove this car already.
I did drive this car already.
How did it feel to you?
Well, thanks for that question. That's a good query.
This is going to be one of the more entertaining videos, I should say already, because John and I have known each other for a long time, and he never ceases to entertain.
Because, the thing is that as somebody who has, this is completely spontaneous. This is not one of these things that's just like a setup where we're staring at a bunch of cameras or anything else like that. No, let me tell you, it ain't quick. It's nice, but it ain't quick. It ain't Tesla quick. It ain't knock your head off with a mallet quick like the Tesla Plaid is or anything else like that. Having said that, it's very well planted. It drives very nicely. It's got a very nice, quiet everything.
John, I totally agree with you. The power is smooth. It's totally nice linear build up to it, but it is it's not overwhelming, certainly. And when you floor it, we're going along right now. When you floor it, you get decent response, but not tons of pull. And it's actually a little bit surprising because electric powertrains are usually quite good at getting instant response, and then you get a nice little lurch back into the seat, you get some pull right away. Honda has really smoothed that out, but there's also not that much pull to it. Now, that was in the normal driving mode. There is a sport driving mode. I'm going to turn that on now. Now we're in the sport driving mode, and I can see a little racetrack section in the digital dash. I'll floor it again. And the response is better.
Not that much better.
But no, not a ton better. It is better though, but the pull isn't that much different. The biggest difference is the noise. They've done a lot of work with active sound control so that when you're in the sport driving mode, you get a different sound, and it sounds like this. And hopefully you can hear that over the rain.
It actually sounds pretty cool.
It does sound kind of cool.
But it's not very loud.
It's like this kind of like electronic locomotive kind of sound to me.
It's more Jetsons down an octave.
There you go. Baritone Jetsons.
Yeah.
Now, of course, this being a battery electric vehicle, we do get very good fuel economy, miles per gallon equivalents. I'll go ahead and put that up on the screen right now. And
wow, that's a big number.
And considering everything, the range we get, I would say, is reasonable. This is an 85 kilowatt hour battery pack, and in the front wheel drive, lower trim Prologues, you get 296 miles of range. If you go all wheel drive, that does reduce it a little bit. And if you get this elite trim, it does reduce it a little bit more. So this specific Honda Prologue Elite gets 273 miles of range, which these days, I don't know, John, would you call that average? Around average?
Yeah, it's in the range of market adequate.
I think adequate is the right word, actually, but that's not altogether a bad thing because these numbers are moving so quickly.
No, the thing is that here's the major problem with this car, is that it's a family-oriented vehicle, and I don't want to think about the guy who's got a 3-year-old who's got to have to keep that kid absolutely 100% mesmerized for the 45 minutes it takes to fast charge this thing.
Yes, I'm glad you pointed that out. This is ultimately a 400-volt system, and that means that peak charging is 150 kilowatts, which Honda says is worth about 65 miles of range for every 10 minutes. So math states that it would take more than a half an hour to get from a 10 to an 80% charge if you're going on a road trip in this.
Yeah, and the thing is that it's a family vehicle. There's no problem with being a family vehicle. The question is that is it flexible enough for the way families actually live? Mm-hmm. And this is true for all battery electric vehicles. Is that if you have kids and the next thing you find out that your kid has just joined a traveling soccer team, or your kid has to go to a piano recital in, say, Livonia, you're going to have to find this vehicle might be every battery electric vehicle, for that matter, may be too limited for the actual way you live your life. That's why plug-in hybrids have become so popular.
Well, I think we should compartmentalize this a little bit. If you're making the decision to go with a battery electric vehicle,
Yeah.
you're already in the space of battery electric vehicles.
Yeah, you've drunk the Kool-Aid.
How is this among the other EVs? And there's a lot of Honda practicality built into this thing that I like a lot. I think the ergonomics are well laid out. I think everything's easy to see and use and operate, but it does have the limitations that a lot of battery electric vehicles do have. So it's not a world apart from other battery electric vehicles. It's playing in that same ballpark.
Is this vehicle a breakthrough? No. Is it nice? It's very nice. And the thing is it feels very much like a Honda, and that has an attraction by itself. If you're coming out of a Honda Accord or a Pilot, this is going to feel very familiar.
Yeah.
And as a transition from a sort of conventional ICE Honda to this, it's a nice move.
Speaking of all those things, let's talk about the chassis a little bit, because it does have a very pleasant ride, but it's not floaty. It's a controlled body, but it's also not all that stiff. It's absorbing all the undulations of the road and everything. We're feeling just fine. And there's plenty of comfort in this. And I like the steering weight and the steering response that we're getting, and the seats are comfortable, and everything is responding to my inputs just as I would expect, and the car feels perfectly well planted, even though we're clearly in drain now. In terms of driving it, it felt stable and confident to you, right?
It feels heavy. The one thing is that it is different than other Hondas. Hondas are notorious, which is notorious in the best sense of the term, for being very light feeling cars.
Yes.
And this one is the least light feeling Honda yet.
I think that's fair. Yeah, this you can feel the 85 kilowatt hour battery pack down low for
right.
sure.
Yeah, right. So the thing is that, you know, if there's going to be a deviation from the Honda norm, it's that feeling of mass that isn't necessarily present in other Hondas. Even when you get into things like the Pilot and the Passport, which are pretty big vehicles, they feel lighter than this. Significantly lighter, with a lighter touch, lighter feel. Having said that, one of the things I do like about this vehicle is the way it looks. Is that it's wider and lower than most Hondas are. It has kind of a sinister countenance. I like the word sinister countenance.
Yeah, but then the styling is the strength of this, for sure.
Really good looking vehicle.
Yeah, it's clean, and they did a good job with the headlight assembly and the taillight assembly to use light to add to the styling in ways that make the car, I would say, look cool.
It does look cool, and also the interior is really nice. It's sweet.
Yeah,
it takes the Honda idiom and it beats the hell out of it with electricity. So it's pretty good. It has a nice setup of real buttons as opposed to putting everything through the screen.
When a lot of things get embedded in sub-menus and you're going through one screen to another, then to another, that can get tiresome, to be sure.
Yeah, and that's not going to happen. This car has more functions, especially for the HVAC and comfort controls.
Now, I don't actually have an opportunity for my usual acceleration test, but we are merging onto the interstate now, and I am slowing down, not speeding up, and we are going to do an acceleration test, sort of. We are in the sport mode right now. We're going a lot less than highway speeds, and we're going to floor the accelerator. And, it gets up to speed reasonably well, and it feels perfectly stable in the rain here. We had no loss of traction with 2 motors and all-wheel drive. That was a non-issue, but it's not the electric motor punch that I've gotten a little bit used to with, the more powerful EVs that are out there. So that is fine, but it's not an advantage. It's not one of the selling points. Yeah, it's definitely not exciting.
Not exciting. It's in fact, if you'd say it's comforting, not exciting. It's like a lullaby. This has got lullaby acceleration.
I would say it's better than a lullaby.
Okay, it's an up-tempo jazzy number.
It's an up-tempo jazzy number.
Okay.
Ultimately, John, I know you feel the same way. This is not breathtaking acceleration, but considering what this vehicle is, a 2-row SUV that's about the size of a Honda Passport, it's perfectly adequate. You're not wanting for power, but you're not going to be impressing your friends with the power either, I suppose.
No, but the nice thing is also, I think we ought to talk about the giant dash desktop we have here.
Giant desktop, and this is a nice low hood. The visibility out of the front of the car is fantastic.
This is very 1990 Pontiac Transport up here. And
that is a throwback. John, you were fooling everybody before, but you have officially aged yourself.
I am really old.
Okay, but we were accelerating onto the highway. Now we're on the highway, and we're on the highway in a rainstorm, which is fun. And I have to say that this car behaves pretty darn well. John, what is your initial impression of how this car feels on this road?
I think it feels very, very well planted. I think this is the big advantage of electric cars as far as dynamics goes, is that they keep their weight low, and they're usually wide because you want to be able to because you need the space for the batteries. So relative to their length, they're wide, and this thing has a lot of tire. It has big 21-inch wheels. I think the tires are like 1,500 millimeters wide. I think it's actually like
yes, these tires are roughly the width of the car.
Yeah, they're more than the width of the car, and they are shedding water well. They're all season tires. They're not high performance tires. This is not like Pilot Sport Cup 16s or whatever the latest thing is.
Yeah, and the seats are comfortable.
It's a very I mean, as a if you want to put 1,000 miles a day on it, no, you can't do it because you can't.
It would take a minute with the charging stations.
But for a 200-mile trip, this thing would be nice.
The car, to me, feels really good on the interstate. Considering that it is a battery electric vehicle, there's no engine to drown out anything. The wind noise is pretty darn well isolated. Road noise is nice and quiet, and there's really good comfort here. I think that Honda did a good compromise between ride and handling, so on this not smoothest road in the world, it's absorbing bumps and heaves of the road just fine. And you do get a lot of driving aids. This does come standard with Honda Sensing, and there's a big long list of driving aids. So if you're into that kind of stuff, it'll pop up right there. You do, of course, get adaptive cruise control and those types of things. And you also get a healthy amount of comforts. This is a cooler day, but we have heated seats, heated steering wheel, and a lot of the other comforts. We have dual zone climate control, and that is standard across the board, as I told you. So yeah, there's a lot of good comforts in here. So yeah, this is a perfectly reasonable road trip car at the end of the day. So there you have it, the 2024 Honda Prologue in this a little bit abbreviated, slightly atypical review. Clearly, I'm not on my usual roads. I'm not in my usual state. We're actually in, what would you call this?
We're about 100 miles north of San Francisco.
And I'm at a Honda event. That's why John and I are together. That's why we're both wearing these great little badges. And it's been a really nice experience to get a taste for this Prologue. And what do you think overall?
Look, electric cars have their advantages and their disadvantages. This one is as vice-free as any electric car I've been in for the short exposure. I mean, there's only so far you can take this. I think it's got a lot of Honda virtues. It's got a lot of GM virtues. It's wide, it's low, it's super comfy. You're not going to get a quieter EV. You're not going to get you get a faster EV. You get a quicker EV, but I'm not sure you're going to find a more comfortable EV.
Yeah, and I think that's my big takeaway with this. I think Viceless was a really good way to say it. This car is very inoffensive. It just does everything you want it to do quietly, competently, comfortably. I think for the folks that are interested in an EV but still have normal family life needs otherwise, that this Prologue would be a perfectly good fit. I'm Robin Warner. That's John Perley Huffman. Thank you very much for watching. And if you like this video, please let me know by giving it a thumbs up. Doing so does help me out a lot, and I really appreciate that. Also, I do reviews like this all the time. Also, car news and walkarounds and technical videos as well. So if you have any interest in keeping up with the auto industry in general, please subscribe to my channel. That also helps me out a lot, and I'd also really appreciate that. If you're curious about something like the Prologue, but you're not quite ready to take that leap, I did not all that long ago get a chance to review the Honda CR-V Hybrid. It's kind of a stepping stone into our electrified auto future. The CR-V is smaller than this, but actually has quite a lot of strengths and a lot of space considering its size. I'll have a link to that video in the description, and it should pop up right there. Or maybe you're interested in something else entirely. Well, like I said, I have reviewed a lot by now. Something will pop up next to me. Hopefully that is something you're interested in. And if you do end up watching it, I definitely hope you like it.
So Robin, let me summarize what you're saying is your channel is a crapshoot. You know what I mean? Hey, turn it next time, maybe it'll be good.
I'm Robin Warner. Thank you for watching Views on Vehicles.